Good morning, guys, and welcome to the Wednesday, May 29th edition of the MMAOB Daily Show. I'm your host, as always, Adam Martin. This podcast is found on YouTube under the MMA Oddsbreaker channel, also available at SoundCloud, and I'm working on the iTunes, like I mentioned in previous episodes. First and foremost, you guys can follow my work at Adam Martin on Twitter and at MMAOddsbreaker.com, SureDog.com, MMAnews.com, MMARings.net, and BJPen.com, so check all that out. Yesterday, I did a podcast with Cole Shelton from SureDog, breaking down UFC Sweden, so definitely go and check that out. We talked for about 50 minutes or so, breaking down the card, talking about the latest news in MMA. It was a fun show. Love talking with Cole, so definitely check that out, guys. But, we have a lot to talk about today, of course. So first and foremost, yesterday while I was recording the podcast, I talked about Uriah Faber coming back and how he said he'd accepted a fight. And literally when I finished doing the show, Nolan King reported, or actually Dave Meltzer reported, Nolan King tweeted about it, that Uriah Faber's fighting Ricky Simone. So I talked about yesterday with Cole in the second podcast, but I missed it in the Daily Show in the morning. So quickly, that fight's going to take place at UFC Sacramento. That's in July 13th. I was surprised by the matchup, although I guess it's a good fight. Faber, obviously, veteran of the sport, one of the greatest bantamweights of all time. Simone, up-and-coming guy, looks really good in the UFC. Just beat Ronnie Yalha at UFC 234. I just think it's kind of a tough fight for Faber to come back to. I think Simone is a really good fighter. I hope we get him at plus money. I would love to get him as an underdog because I think he wins this fight. So I like Ricky Simone in that fight. Like I said, I talked about it a little bit more yesterday, but I'm just surprised Faber took that fight. And also, that I should mention, that fight's for 3 rounds. It's not the main event. I don't know what the main event is for that card. I don't think it's been announced yet, so hopefully that will come out soon. Cody Garbutt's not going to be fighting on that card because of just taking time off due to all the knockouts he's had. So I really have no idea what the main event's going to be for that card. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, TJ Dillashaw would have made some sense for that, but he's not going to be fighting anytime soon. So hopefully that's announced soon. But there are some other fights that were announced for that card, including a very intriguing featherweight fight between Josh Emmett and Misar Bektic. Both guys, obviously, 2 of the best in the world. Josh Emmett coming off that devastating knockout win over Michael Johnson. He was losing the fight, but, man, he showed his power in that 3rd round, knocking him out. And then Misar Bektic has always been one of the best prospects at 145. Struggled to stay healthy. He had that loss to Darren Elkins last year, or 2 years ago, I guess now, where he got brutally knocked out after winning the whole fight. So we'll see what happens in that fight. I would tend to lean towards Emmett just based on the recent activity and also that the way he looked against Johnson in that fight. That was definitely an impressive performance for sure. I have a feeling this banner is going to fall behind me, by the way. It'd be hilarious if it did it right now during the show. Yeah, it might fall. One sec. Oh, my God. Of course it's going to do that. It's going to take it down. No worries. No worries at all there. That's too funny. It was just about to fall. I heard it. Got to get a better clip to hold it up there. Anyways, I'll do that later. But, just talking about this card. Jonathan Martinez versus Ping Wan Liu. That's also a pretty solid fight on this card. I think Ping Wan Liu is actually a decent fighter. Jonathan Martinez, he's moving up. Well, he's going to fight bantamweight anyways. He could have fought at flyweight, I think, but with that division being pretty much, just destroyed, he's going to have to fight bantamweight. I do like Liu a little bit there, though. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, again, we don't know what the main event is for that card. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully we do find out soon because that card's 6 weeks away. Not even 6 weeks. So we need to find out the main event soon. Speaking of fight announcements, really good heavyweight fight that's for Farah Hanoun reported for UFC 242 in Abu Dhabi between Curtis Blades and Shamil Abdurakhimov. I like this fight a lot. Just because Curtis has to stay busy. And coming off the knockout loss last year to Francis, he needs to get a win streak going. He beat Justin Willis. It was a good performance, a dominant win, but he didn't get the finish in that fight. So the UFC needs him to get a finish. Then Abdurakhimov, he's looked pretty good lately. He's got some good finishes on his resume. I like the matchup, but I think Blades definitely wins this fight. That wrestling's so good. And, Abdurakhimov is a good wrestler too, but I think Curtis can just impose his will in this one. And, Shabil's a big guy, but Curtis is even bigger. So I like Curtis Blades in that fight, and I assume he's a big favorite, and that will definitely be on the pay-per-view card for that UFC 242 Abu Dhabi event. Also, we have Ashley Evans Smith is going to fight Taylor Santos at UFC Uruguay. So that card's getting some fights announced for it. I really don't know who's going to win this fight. I would probably lean towards Santos fighting close to home in Brazil, and Evan Smith just I don't know, just never really impressed me in the UFC. And I think at this point she's if she loses this fight, she's going to be released. We all know the UFC's cutting fighters, and she's going to have to really work to save her job in this one. And speaking of cutting fighters, there was more fighters released yesterday. So I've talked about this in the last couple of podcasts. There's going to be a lot of fighters released in the coming days and weeks. And the latest cuts include, this was first reported by Aaron Bronstetter, my good friend, Joseph Morales. So another flyweight's been cut. Morales not really successful in the UFC. I don't think that's a surprise he's been cut. I was kind of surprised he was on the roster still. But again, that flyweight division's fading fast. There's I think 11 fighters left, or 10 fighters at this point in that division. So that division's going quickly. And then heavyweights, you got Dmitry Smolyak was released. That's the guy that lost to Greg Hardy, so I don't think that there's any real loss to the UFC there. He looked absolutely terrible in that fight. Dana White was very critical of his performance, so I'm not surprised there. And Abdul Karim Edlov, who he's just never fought, so that's not surprising either. He must have had some issues with USADA or something. I don't know why this guy's never fought. He was supposed to be a big-time prospect at light heavyweight, but yes, he's been released as well. And Guilherme Cruz at MMA Fighting reported those ones, so those two cuts. So, again, you're going to see a lot of cuts coming up. The UFC's bringing in new fighters to the Contender Series. The UFC's signing new guys all the time. There needs to be guys released to make room for these new fighters. So no surprise there. And again, Joseph Morales, another flyweight being cut. That division is just shrinking really, really fast. And it's sad to see, but I don't think it's surprising anyone. I think by the end of the year, you might have two guys in that division, maybe three, like Cejudo and Benavidez and Formiga, and I guess Davison Figueiredo, Pantoja, the winner of that fight. That would probably be it. I would assume they're going to keep cutting these guys. Sad to see, but it's the truth. What else? There was some crazy news yesterday. Yoel Romero won a lawsuit against a supplement company in New Jersey, and he was rewarded $27.5 million in the tainted supplement lawsuit. So that's insane. Malky Kawa said that he might not actually even get the full money. He might get just $5 million. So that's still amazing. But man, imagine he gets that $27 million. You'd have to think that, at this point, that's a lot of money for a guy like Romero. He's the main eventer, but he's not really a pay-per-view star. So $27 million, $5 million even is good. Definitely deserves it. I mean, he missed a lot of time. You got people accusing him of being a cheater and a steroid user and all that stuff. So it's really disappointing to hear that the fans turn on this guy. But now he's shown that and proven that he didn't do anything illegal, and he lost 6 months of his career with USADA due to that tainted supplement. So he deserves it, and I hope more fighters sue these supplement companies. I know Tim Means, I believe, is working on a lawsuit as well for that Austrian bust that he had a couple years ago, where again he used a tainted supplement. He proved that the supplement had something in it that he didn't know was in it that was illegal, and he lost time in his career. And time in an MMA fighter's career is very valuable because these careers only last so long. So when you have a guy, in their 30s, or even in Romero's case in his 40s, that's losing time due to these cases, it's very valuable. So hopefully he gets at least part of that money anyways. And he'll be fighting later this summer against Paulo Costa. I'm really looking forward to that fight at UFC 241 in Anaheim. So that's going to be a good one. A couple more quick news and notes here. Bellator 222, they made a few changes there on that card. First and foremost, Neiman Gracie versus Rory McDonald for the welterweight title has been set as the main event. That's also a semifinal. The winner will fight Douglas Lima in the finals of the welterweight tournament. Originally, it was supposed to be Chael Sonnen versus Lyoto Machida. I'm glad they switched it. I had no interest in watching that fight as a main event. It's a solid fight, I guess, between two older guys, but come on, that's not the main event in 2019. It's not. So the Bellator's made this mistake before. I think they had Chael versus Wanderlei as a main event once when they had better fights below it. Rampage, I think, versus Chael as well. It's just strange. So I think this was a good call by Bellator, especially considering their main events aren't even 5 rounds. So really, it's just a swap of names on the poster, and I think it's the right thing to do. Rory McDonald again versus Neiman Gracie is the main event now. That's a much better fight. And also added to that card is a really, really intriguing featherweight fight between Juan Archuleta and Eduardo Dantas. I really like this fight. Eduardo Dantas, former champion in Bellator, obviously. Really good career in Bellator. Kind of faded lately, but still definitely a solid fighter. And Juan Archuleta's long win streak. He's looked great. I think he was a free agent. He must have re-signed with Bellator, obviously, so good for them for re-signing him. I think he would look good in the UFC, but that's a good re-signing by Bellator. Juan Archuleta is a great fighter, so I'm really looking forward to that matchup. Actually, that card's shaping up to be pretty decent. I'd have to favor Juan Archuleta in that one, though, for sure. So, yeah, that card's shaping up to be pretty good. Let me just take a quick look at the full card. Bellator 222. It's coming up quick. It's coming up very quickly. It's June 14th in New York. So again, the main event, Morgan McDonald versus Neiman Gracie. Co-main event, Leon Machida versus Chael Sonnen. Also, this is a great fight. Darian Caldwell versus Kyoji Horiguchi for the bantamweight title. That's a rematch of their fight in Ryzen. Dylan Dennis against Max Humphrey. Like I just mentioned, Juan Archuleta against Eduardo Dantes. And then also you have Ricky Bandejas, the guy who beat James Gallagher. He's coming back. He's fighting Patrick Mix, an undefeated fighter. And also Aaron Pico is fighting Adam Borix. Aaron Pico needs to get a win here. So interesting card. I think it's a pretty decent card for sure, and I'm excited to watch it. But that's pretty much it, I think, for today, guys. If any news breaks, I'll be sure to put it on my Twitter. So far, so good. I don't think anything's broken during this podcast, although I should definitely just take a quick look because, man, last time that was crazy when the Faber news breaks the last second. Quick look. I don't see too much. Yeah, I don't really see too much. Oh, one thing I want to mention quickly, actually, is there's a lot of changes going on in the MMA media. I just want to talk about this quick because, honestly, it doesn't concern me that much. I have my own job, so I don't really care what other people do, but it's pretty nuts that so many people are leaving MMA fighting, including Chuck Mendenhall and Sean El-Shadi. I've heard they're both going to a very prominent sports website. I don't want to say anything because I don't think they've announced that yet, but they're going to be going to a really big sports website soon. So MMA fighting is losing guys. Kind of surprising. I heard that they might hire someone else, someone that I work with right now, actually, who's a great journalist. So that's a good hire for them. But it's just crazy how all these guys are changing their spots. That's the business, though. I mean, I've changed spots many times in my career as well. But the one thing that I've always stayed at is MMAOddsbreaker.com. That's my home. That's the home of this podcast. So check us out, MMAOddsbreaker.com. Check out our YouTube channel. Subscribe to it. Again, big things are coming this year, guys. Loving doing the MMAOB Daily Show. It's been great so far. Check that out. Just plugging some other stuff here. Sherdog.com. I just sent in my prime picks for the UFC Sweden article, and I will UFC Sweden card, excuse me, and I will be doing the play-by-play this Saturday afternoon. The card starts at 10 a.m. Eastern time, and the main card starts at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So early card, love it. Get Saturday off to do whatever I want, so it's pretty sweet. Definitely check that play-by-play out. MMAnews.com, I just sent an article in on Anthony Smith and Alexander Gustafsson. Check that out. MMARings.net, I wrote one about just the UFC's cuts. And then, of course, BJPenn.com. Any breaking news, I'll probably be putting on BJPenn.com. It's more of a breaking news website. So check all that stuff out. Follow me on Twitter at MMAdamMartin. And I'll see you tomorrow morning, guys, for the Thursday podcast.